The South African Reserve Bank's challenge against the Public Protector's remedial action to amend its mandate has been upheld by the High Court in Pretoria. Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane has been ordered to pay the costs. The bank challenged the Public Protector's remedial action, which sought to amend its mandate. While Mkhwebane initially defended her remedial action, she conceded and withdrew opposition to the application. Well, Transform RSA President Adil Nchabeleng joins us now on the phone line. A very good morning to you, Adil. Thank you so much for joining us. Talk us through your reaction to the court actually setting aside Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane's remedial action regarding the Reserve Bank's mandate.
Yeah, good morning, Akira Pete, and all the listeners and viewers. The current judgment that has came out from the High Court to set aside the Public Protector's recommendation that the mandate of the Reserve Bank must be expanded doesn't come as a surprise in terms of the High Court setting aside that particular order from the Public Protector in terms of the remedial action. We were in any way expecting this particular outcome. It is not new. We knew already the case in which it was already sort of presented, particularly the weakness by which the Public Protector went about trying to recuse herself after she had already made the remedial action pronouncement was very concerning thereafter. So I don't expect anything lesser than what the High Court actually had ordered.
And as Transform RSA, do you think that the Reserve Bank's mandate should in fact perhaps be expanded or adjusted somewhat?
Of course the Reserve Bank's mandate must be expanded. That is no doubt in that issue. The issue is not regarding the expansion of the mandate, it's regarding the High Court's judgment on the flaws or technicalities by which the remedial action process was actually handled. In this case, the Public Protector's office must own up and actually start taking responsibility. They could have presented a very strong case with regards to actually arguing in support for the remedial action that they put out forward. But during the process, as you have seen, as the process was unfolding, there was a point where the Public Protector, Ms. Mkhwebane herself, actually caved in during the process by which she was already advocating no longer in support of a remedial action. So that itself is an issue that we would need to pick up at some later time. But the High Court actually setting aside the remedial action itself is not the last step. It is just the first step towards ensuring that we transform and we change the mandate of the South African Reserve Bank.
And Adil, seeing as the first step has been taken, what other steps should be taken moving forward?
Look, our view from a Transform RSA point of view is very clear and simple. South Africa's monetary system cannot be held at ransom by the South African Reserve Bank. They have a judiciary, they have a legislative imperative to ensure that they expand the mandate in order to accommodate the socio-economic challenges as well as issues relating to how to grow our economy. And not only that, I went out yesterday very clearly pronouncing that we actually need more than one South African Reserve Bank. It is not a new process. There's been processes of this nature being done elsewhere in the world, because the minute we start concentrating and having one monopoly monetary system, which is a private-owned company and entity, controlling the entire destiny of South Africa's economy is quite dangerous and not good for a democracy. Just like we have multi-parties, we must start looking at the option for a multi-reserve bank system in South Africa.
Well, thank you so much for your thoughts and joining us here on Ground Report. That was Transform RSA President Adil Nchabeleng giving us his thoughts on the Reserve Bank mandate not being adjusted. We also have a Black Empowerment Foundation's Zamo Madladla on the phone line. A very good morning to you, Zama. Thank you so much for joining us. Just walk us through, as Black Empowerment Foundation, what your thoughts are on the court setting aside Public Protector's remedial action regarding the Reserve Bank's mandate.
Well, good morning and good morning to your viewers. Thanks for the opportunity. Well, we would firstly welcome the court judgment. We have not had the opportunity to study it in detail, but are aware of the summary that it has literally set aside all of the Public Protector's remedial action. Well, there is a certain level of disappointment from the point of view of the Black Empowerment Foundation in terms of, in spirit, what the Public Protector was putting forward as forms of remedying where our economic situation sits and where the majority continue to be marginalized in the land of their forefathers. We will study the judgment in detail. We do certainly believe that there are money to to be recouped from ABSA itself, as per the CX report. We wouldn't want to second guess the judges at all. So our legal department will be looking at the full judgment. But in essence, our immediate reaction is that of disappointment at having had the entire judgment set aside. The entire remedial action set aside.
And Zama, do you sort of agree? There was someone I was speaking to earlier on who had a suggestion that perhaps we should have a multi-reserve bank system running in the country where there isn't one reserve bank monopolizing the situation. Do you agree with those sentiments?
Well, I think that would be really putting the cart before the horse. What we actually need to really do is to have a reconciliation commission. We also need to look at the structural matters of our economy, where it sits. We sit with the debate of white monopoly capital, this monopoly capital and the other. So we really need to have a proper in-depth look. And let's look at who really has what, who owns what. How do we ensure that the development of this country is for the greater population at large and not just the selected few who have been making money ever since time immemorial. We cannot continue with the current status quo. Something must give. So it's not easy for us. If you look at how difficult it was for us to come to an agreement on the political arrangement and how the country was to be governed, when you look at, we first had to have a government of national unity. Obviously, on the economic front, you cannot continue to have a scenario where 70–80% of the population is marginalized and do not have access to, they don't have access to assets to firstly underwrite themselves in wish to be borrowing money against anything, so they're not commercially viable. Then on the other hand, you've got the state that is hamstrung by utilizing the very same commercial banking tactics when it's looking at its own development funding. So you end up having the majority being sidelined. In recent times, we've seen with the mining charter how it's been taken to court, and that is literally on an increase of 4% from 26% to 30%. With minor adjustments, nothing. But we've had executives from the banking sector calling such plans crazy. And they've come out boldly calling them crazy on platforms where the majority were busy discussing policy. We really need to have a true, proper, open conversation, because these conversations in silos end up with all of us being reactive and not coming with sensible long-term solutions that must allow for us to create equity in our country. This country is majority black. It is not to say that the majority must subjugate the minority and put them in the corner, but there must be equity in terms of how the resources and the economies of this country are shared amongst its people.
Well, thank you so much for your thoughts there. That was Zama Madlala from the Black Empowerment Foundation, just mentioning that the status quo cannot be maintained, that the conversation should continue and also should be broadened as well. We also have some reactions from the Reserve Bank Governor.
We welcome the judgment, and I think that we will let the judgment speak for itself. We have posted it on our website. And I've got nothing further to say other than to say that we welcome the judgment. Well, we didn't need any precedents. The mandate of the Reserve Bank is spelled out in the Constitution, and that is what we had always argued for. And it is one of the original constitutional principles. And the courts have confirmed that, have decided to set aside the remedial action of the public protector, and we welcome it.
Well, that was the Reserve Bank Governor Lesija Kganyago actually commenting on the Reserve Bank having been victorious and having the High Court setting aside Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane's remedial action to have the Reserve Bank's mandate changed. We do also have our reporter on the ground, and we'll get in touch with her to get some more reactions from her. Our reporter, Hlengiwe Motaung, joins us live now from Pretoria. Very good morning to you, Hlengiwe. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, just talk us through what took place this morning. I saw a reaction there from the Reserve Bank Governor, Lesija Kganyago, actually happy at the decision by the court.